Hello, welcome to our Spotlight program today. I'm Sharon Snodgrass from the Commission for Children, Youth, and Family of the City of Farmington and Farmington Hills. Our program today is on structured recovery, and our guest speaker is Debra Jay. We're glad to have you here, Debra.
It's so nice to be here, Sharon.
Debra, you may have recognized her from being on Dr. Oz or The Oprah Show, but she's more than just a television personality. She maintains a private practice on clinical intervention services and is the founder of Structured Family Recovery Services and Training. In addition, Debra has authored several books: No More Letting Go, The Spirituality of Taking Action Against Alcoholism and Drug Addiction, and co-authored books, Love First and Aging and Addiction. We're going to discuss with her today her newest book, It Takes a Family, A Cooperative Approach to Lasting Sobriety. This is her most recent and a very successful book. So Debra, why don't we begin by talking about what is addictive behavior?
You know, that's such a good question to start out with because obviously people hear about addiction all the time, but when you really love somebody or you have a close friend and you think they might have an addiction problem, sometimes it's really hard to tease out what is addiction and what isn't. So I always say to families, there is a kind of quick and dirty question that they can ask themselves. And that question is this person I'm concerned about having ongoing negative consequences in any area of their life that's related to alcohol or other drugs? And if I can answer yes to that question, there's a very high probability that I'm looking at addiction, and that person needs a very good professional assessment.
And where would they go to get a professional assessment, or where would they start?
Well, there are a lot of places to go, but you want someplace really good. You know, a good idea is to get a good referral from somebody who's very, very specialized. I mean, we talk to people all the time. People can go to our website, which I think will give them. We're happy to talk to them. If they call us and say, this is what I'm facing, where would I go? We want to know where they live. We're going to ask them a few questions, and we'll give them the best resource possible.
And what is your website again?
The website is lovefirst.net.
And so how does the family recognize the behavior then?
So you just start seeing that there are problems. They're starting to have negative consequences. Alcoholism starts before that, but it's silent. And they may seem like a regular social drinker, but now we're having problems like legal problems, DUI, not keeping promises, not showing up to work, spending money and not knowing where it's going, or family issues. You know, that relationships are starting to crumble, trust is breaking down, you're not trusting them anymore, and you're wondering what's going on. Sometimes you see the drug addiction, sometimes it's hidden from you. But you start seeing that kind of chaos, and things start not making sense, and the negative consequences. Probably addiction is one of the things you should be thinking about.
And so your book is about the structured plan. What is the structured plan, and how does the family get involved in it?
Well, this is what's really interesting because we haven't given families much of a role to play. You know, somebody goes to treatment, there might be a little treatment family program or not, small role. But what we really have to do is we have to first understand that recovery starts when the person leaves treatment. And alcoholics and addicts are pretty much left on their own, a little bit of support maybe. So this is bringing the whole family together, as we should have a long time ago, so that when somebody's getting out of treatment, the whole family is working together as a team, and the book explains how to do that as a recovery team, and then they invite the alcoholic or addict in, and it creates this tremendous support like we give for doctors, we give for lawyers, we give for pilots who have terrific success rates in their recovery. So we want to be able to do the same thing for our families. And there's a specific way to do that.
Well, I read in your book about how the family team gets together once a week. How do you do that when somebody lives in another state, or, say, oh, we can't do that, we don't live close.
Exactly. You know, and that's how most families are today, aren't they? They're spread all over. Even if you're in Michigan, you may be 20 miles from each other. So the thing is that this is not therapy, and we do it all over a conference call. So everybody has a cell phone. You can be on vacation, you can be in your pajamas, you don't have to get childcare, you don't have to drive through rush hour. All you have to do is dial in on your phone. Everybody else in the family does as well, and it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter.
And the group consists of the family and a counselor.
It does. They're very specific counselors that have been trained as structured family recovery counselors. Again, this is not therapy. This is a way of bringing a family together to create the support system that highly increases the probability of success in treatment for the loved one who is suffering from addiction.
And it's once a week.
And it's once
Faithfully.
a week. Faithfully once a week. Usually what families do is they, first of all, when I talk about family, for structured family recovery, I always say to people, these are the people you're going to sit around the breakfast table in your pajamas. And you feel perfectly comfortable doing that. Sometimes there's a friend who's just like family who's going to be sitting at that table as well. So it's the closer people. It's not distant relatives. It could be your grandparents, close aunt, certainly your parents, spouse, children that can be part of this circle.
I also understand that the addict is not in the group to start with.
You're absolutely right, and there's a very good reason for that, because we want the family to create what we call a positive social norm. In other words, we're going to set a good example. And so the family has to get accustomed to all of this, you know, learn how to do it and kind of be on their way to be a well-oiled machine. So by the time the addict comes in, they may still be in treatment, by the way, when they join. We have treatment centers that assign them to do this. They come in and they're amazed. They're like, oh my gosh, look at my family. How did they learn all of this? So they're really impressed. But the thing, even when I wrote the book and we had been doing it, the thing that surprised me the most is how much it means to that addicted loved one that their family is doing that for them, and how by far the majority are so excited to participate with their family members.
I can see that would just be remarkable that they were there for them.
Yes.
And another item that the group handles is relapse.
Yes.
Before the person relapses, before they fall off the wagon, as they would say here in Detroit.
Exactly, which is so important, because in the book it has a whole year of structured family recovery meetings, but it also has an entire section where there's a recovery plan, which includes a relapse agreement, and that everybody participates in, including the addict, who will actually write a little letter to the family. My sober self speaking to my relapse self, this is what I want you to do. So we're not making decisions in a crisis. But the other thing that happens, and we're really clear about, is we're not expecting a relapse. We expect sobriety and ongoing recovery. But it's just like that fire map in a hotel door. We're prepared for a crisis. We don't expect the crisis to happen.
So it's there.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm listening to, you know, your structured family recovery, and I'm thinking of my daughter at home, and I'm thinking, I don't need that. I can do it myself. I can enable her in different ways. Could you talk a little bit about enabling?
Well, the most important thing about enabling, which we really don't talk about, because we always talk about enabling, like if you were my loved one who had an addiction problem, I'm enabling you to save you, right?
Right.
From trouble, whatever it is, losing your job, whatever. But the truth of the matter is, that's just the beginning of it. I enable you and save you to save me, right? Because, for instance, if my husband's the addict, and he loses his job, and I'm a young mother staying home with the children, then we can't pay the rent, right?
Right.
So I'm going to enable my husband to save me and my children. I can be a parent enabling my daughter who's addicted to heroin, and she's out on the streets because I can't bear to see my daughter there, or I can't bear to see my son die before me. So enabling is always about saving you to save me. And the thing is, with structured family recovery, is what we're teaching families to do is enable recovery. We're not going to enable the disease anymore. We're going to start to enable recovery.
Enabling recovery is the focus rather than enabling to.
That's absolutely right. Absolutely.
Also, that it's important that there's different steps, like 12 steps, and when a program has steps to it, it's just not one shot, one meeting a week. And could you talk a little bit about how important structure and steps are?
Absolutely. With Structured Family Recovery, we pair it up with the 12-step groups. The steps, this is what you're talking about, correct? The steps are designed both for the family members and for the addict to deal with the destruction and cleaning it up, right? And building trust again. Because we can love someone, but to trust is dismantled by addiction. And when we don't trust somebody as much as we love them, we cannot have a good relationship. I always say that relationships move at the speed of trust. And the 12-step programs do this amazing paradoxical thing. We are working together as a team. It's always about teams.
Okay.
But I'm doing it focusing on myself. So the team that's been left out up to now is the team we're born into. Probably the most important team in our life, and that's what Structured Family Recovery brings into it. So everybody gets to understand the steps, work on the steps, and family members are blown away by that once they do it. They love it.
Well,
They love it.
I can see it's very effective. Well, we're just about out of time.
Okay.
I did want to mention again, it takes a family, a cooperative approach to lasting sobriety. And one of my lines I think is the best in the book is one that says addiction is an isolating disease, and it requires, life requires connecting with others. And I think Structured Family really deals with that issue, that isolation isn't good for anyone, especially for an addict.
That's right.
So thank you, Debra, so much for coming. I did want to mention that along with her many other professional skills, she also is a trustee at Dawn Farms, which many of you are familiar with here in Michigan. And you can look for reference in her book and her website, and hopefully you'll find a family issue that Structured Family will work for you. So thanks, and watch another program. Bye-bye.